I am Sean Webb, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Rock Goddess, and I am rolling with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Dave Meltzer, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Zach Poitras, and this is Your Superior Self.
I'm Ginny Sarasvati, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Carol Kline, and this is Your Superior Self.
Carol Kline, thank you so much for joining the show. This is
my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
This is going to be amazing. I'm so lucky to have you here with me tonight.
Well, if you feel lucky about it, then you definitely are.
So I had your co-author on the show earlier in the week. Was it a week or 2 weeks ago? And you guys co-authored a book, you and Gay Hendricks, titled 8 Secrets to Intentionally Change Your Fortune, titled Conscious Luck. Now, can you explain and remind my listeners like how this came to be? So Mr. Hendricks, Dr. Hendricks had an idea for a book or some type of, I'm trying to remember it, like some kind of idea for a book or something about luck. And you guys had teamed up to write this finally after a while. I think you had this idea for a long time, but can you remind my listeners about how you guys teamed up?
I had met Gay in 2005. We'd written a book with Jack Canfield called You've Got to Read This Book. 55 stories of the people tell the stories. 55 people tell the stories of the book that changed their life. And it was one of my favorite books I've ever written. It was a fabulous experience. And Gay and I really hit it off. We live in the same small town in Southern California, Ojai, California. And we saw each other around town. I got invited to his Christmas parties, and we were friends. In 2012, maybe 7 years later, he sent me a manuscript for my professional opinion as an author, editor, and writer. And it was called Conscious Luck. And it was the seed form of this particular book that you're holding in your hand that came out this year. Parts of it were in there, but it had a lot of other ideas and things. And so I gave him my professional opinion, which was that it was very promising, but needed substantial editing and additional material. And he said, I'm writing detective fiction now, and I think I'm just going to put this on the back burner. And I said, that's fine. But I have to tell you that this book haunted me. I had the manuscript on my desktop. I would see Conscious Luck every day when I opened my computer. And I was like, that book really needs to be written. But I got busy, he got busy. Years went by. And whenever we'd see each other, I'd say, are you going to do anything with Conscious Luck? And he'd say, nope, not happening. I'm still busy with other things. So one day in March of 2017, I met him in the grocery store. We had our typical exchange. I went home, and this time I said, you know what? It's time. I'm going to ask Gay if I can help him get this book out of oblivion, the manuscript that was just going to rot away, and get it into the hands of people, because I thought it was a fabulous book. And he said, yes. So we started working on it in March of 2017. He didn't care if it got done. It was very low key. It was a great partnership, very mellow. And once we started working on it, we really had great synergy. And I loved the way the book came out. It is a little bit of a Frankenstein book. The first 3 or 4 chapters are Gay's original chapters in his voice. And then it switches to, I edited some of there and added content. And then the rest of the book is a collaboration. And my background is Chicken Soup for the Soul books, self-help books with Marci Shimoff, Nichols, and Jack Canfield. And my real strength is in research and stories. I'm a ghostwriter. I can actually write people's stories for them. And so it was delightful to interview people and make the points come alive, I felt, with stories from other people. So that's how the book came about.
That is so what about the Conscious Luck? Like why that? Like why did that draw you into wanting to write this?
Those two words don't usually go together. People think of luck as something that happens to you, something external that you have no control over. And consciousness is the ultimate internal intention, being aware. So how could those two go together? And for me, when I read his first his intro and his story about how he became lucky, it really haunted me because in my life, I've had good luck and bad luck, some amazing good luck, some pretty horrible bad luck. And I never thought I could affect it in any way. I never thought of it that way. And to think, when I finally started studying and researching luck, there's a whole body of scientific literature about luck in the positive psychology world. Who knew? To really understand that you are making your luck right now, good or bad. So why not be intentional about it? There was a meta shift for me when I read this article by a woman named Dr. Tina Selig, who is out of Stanford. And she's done a TED talk about this. And she had this quote that was the one that, that just made my brain go, was that most people think of luck as a lightning strike, random, isolated, dramatic. When in fact, luck is a wind that's always blowing. And it's up to you to create a sail out of tiny behaviors that can harness the winds of luck.
That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing? That
is
metaphor
amazing.
all of a sudden.
I've always been fascinated with ghostwriters. Always. How, like, you'll see, like, you'll see, I just got done reading Jerry Weinstein, I think is his name, his book. And he had a ghostwriter. But it always amazes me how, like, you'll read someone's autobiography or something, and it's like it's so detailed. And I can't remember last week. Like, how do you guys do it? Like, I know you interview them, but what's the process look like?
Ghostwriters run the gamut. There are ghostwriters that write a book and somebody else puts their name on it. They have nothing else to do with it but their name. And there are ghostwriters who basically just birth a book. They're midwives, and they help the writer polish. They're more like book doctors. So in between there's this whole range where some people, for some reason, my strength was that I could interview people and find the thread that was interesting, that would lead to detail, that would make the story come alive. And there was one story that I always tell as an example. I don't know, it's not about conscious luck, so if you want to hear it, I'll tell it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I wrote a book. I was a silent co-author on Chicken Soup for the Veteran Soul. And I interviewed veterans of all the wars. And one of my favorite stories was a man named Elgin Staples. And Elgin lived, he was a World War II veteran. I don't think he's with us anymore. But Elgin had been in the Pacific Theater. He had been on an aircraft carrier. And it had been, all the soldiers, the sailors, wore life vests, not vests, but belts. So that if the boat had been torpedoed, if they found themselves in the water, they wouldn't have to worry about getting a life vest on. It would already be on. And it turns out they were torpedoed. He did end up in the Pacific Ocean, waiting for one of three things to happen: a shark to eat him, the Japanese to capture him, or the Allies to find him and rescue him. So it was a very fraught few hours while he bobbed up and down in the Pacific. And during that time, he was pretty freaked out. And he was eventually rescued by the Allies, was sent home to Michigan where he lived. And he tells the story of sitting around with his mother around the kitchen table, the dining table, and telling her this story about he was so nervous to take his mind off of, what could possibly happen during that 3 hours in the ocean. He memorized the belt, the directions on his life belt. And he even memorized the inspector number. That's how, he was so focused that he wouldn't go kind of into worry. And he recited the inspector number. And his mother's eyes widened, and she looked at him and she said, "Son, you don't know, I've been volunteering at the Firestone factory downtown. That's my inspector number."
Oh.
Yeah. And so at that moment, this is where my teaching moment, I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Freaked out." And I said, "Elgin, if I was a mouse, in the corner, what would I have seen?" And he said, "Well, I stood up, I walked around the table. She had tears streaming down her face. I held her hands and, brought her up out of the chair, and we embraced each other. I put my arms around her, and she put her arms around me, the same arms that had reached around the world to save me.
Oh,
right. So you got shivers and ooh, you know, but when you say we freaked out, it doesn't have any effect.
sure.
So, you know, as a writer, you have to find the details that make it visual, that make it visceral. So as a ghostwriter, I really enjoy ghostwriting. I enjoy interviewing people for their stories. I don't do it much anymore. I've moved on to other things. But for a book like this, it was wonderful. I would hear stories and I would help people write their own stories. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you gave me all of that and more. Like, I loved it.
Great.
I've just been always fascinated with that. Just the creativity that it goes into, like to interview someone, like you said, like, oh, we freaked out. But then you describe it if I was a mouse in the corner, and to get that, like that powerful statement of her arms wrapping around me. It was like her arms wrapping around me again, across, the world. And it's like,
right.
I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, it's just amazing and how creative you have to be a ghostwriter. And then, like you said, some people, the only credit they get sometimes is just their names at the bottom of the book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a saying among ghostwriters, it's amazing what you can do if you don't care who gets the credit.
Well, there is a story in this book, Conscious Luck, where you talk about a lucky situation for you, right? Like you wanted to be a partner on a book, right?
Yeah, this is interesting. I want to sort of introduce this concept that we came up with. That basically, those behaviors we talked about of building your sail, that there were 4 internal shifts you had to make, and then 4 daily practices. And if you do these things, it's sort of the same way if you want to be healthy, if you want to be way buff, you lift weights, you eat certain foods, you exercise, you sleep well. So there are things you can do to improve your health, where there are absolutely specific things you can do to improve your luck. And because your luck, many people don't realize, few people grasp that luck is not a random thing. It's actually the combined result of your attitudes, actions, and your associations. And what feels random is usually something that you've put in motion either days, weeks, months, or years ago that is finally coming to fruition. So it'll seem like it's out of nowhere. So if you are already creating your luck right now with what you do, why not be intentional about it? So when we were writing the practices, when we were discussing these, and these come from our experience, Gay's counseling experience, interviewing lucky people, the positive psychology, scientific literature. So these are not just we pull them out of our head. These are really documented. And the 4 shifts that you need to make internally are committing to being lucky, which is a mindset, releasing your personal barriers, your mental conditioning, the things that stop you, your upper limits issues, your feelings of unworthiness, and your feelings of negativity about yourself and your life. Those things stop you from being lucky. Another mindset issue. The third is a very, very Gay Hendricks thing. It's something I never would have understood, but it's very powerful. Most people are very blown away by it. This idea of taking negative emotions, especially shame, and finding where shame lives as an energy in your body. Because everything that you experience as an emotion is in your body. When you get scared, you clench your jaw. When you get tired, angry, you bunch up your muscles. When you get scared, your heart, your stomach gets clenched. So all your emotions live in your body. Shame also lives in your body. And Gay had this amazing experience. The stories in the book, it was fun to interview him and write. I interviewed him. Some of those stories weren't there in the original book. And it was all came together, and he realized that the shame he held in his physical body could be released, and the energy there could be redirected to be filled with light and be an attractor. Instead of this dark, heavy shame he felt, he processed it, not emotionally. He had already worked on that for years, but as a physical experience, and then allowed shame to, like replanting a field. He dug up the shame and put in, instead of, potatoes, he put in roses. So this third one is about transforming shame to become an attractor for luck. The fourth one has to do with your goals. And I had no idea that the goals you have can actually attract luck to you. The goals that you're enthusiastic about, that are meaningful to you, that absolutely light you up, and that help other people. When you do that, you align yourself with the energy that's sort of growing the universe, that's growing life, that's in the evolutionary sense, you know? And so you get sort of a wind at your back when you do that. And that's why your goals are important. When you have goals that don't really mean much to you, maybe they're your daily to-do list and you've forgotten the more important soul purpose of why you're here. When you remember that and take the time, that's going to augment and affect your luck powerfully. Then those are the 4 internal shifts. The 4 external daily practices, and I'm such a practical person. I'm like, okay, what do we do? Take bold action consistently. And when I thought about my life, I realized that my greatest strokes of luck always came after I got out of my comfort zone, asked for what I wanted. I call it 20 seconds of insane courage. And it comes from a Matt Damon movie. I don't know if you saw that movie, We Bought a Zoo. And there's this moment. No. Oh my God, there's this moment where there's a clip on YouTube and Matt Damon's sitting on the floor next to his 12-year-old son. And I guess I never saw the movie. I've just seen this clip. And the son wants to ask a girl out, I guess. And he's too scared. And Matt Damon says, son, I'm going to tell you 20 seconds of insane courage, 20 seconds of incredible bravery. And I promise you, act on that and it'll be amazing. And what I realize is that most people think they have to be brave all the time. You really only need to identify the moments, those windows of opportunity, and then hurl yourself through them by remembering it's only 20 seconds. Just do it. Nike swoosh, sorry. But
not a sponsor.
Yeah, sorry. Not
a sponsor yet.
But the thing about taking action and getting out of your rut, ruts can turn into graves too soon. It's a problem. You get an efficient way of doing something. You stop seeing other opportunities. You stop meeting people. You stop, expanding your world. And that's how you get lucky opportunities. So taking bold action, and there's a few different bifurcations of that. The second practice is finding your lucky tribe. Surrounding yourself with people who don't keep you down, who don't validate your victimhood, who don't want to commiserate about your misery with you. Not that they aren't supportive, empathetic, but people who support and encourage your growth and focus on their own growth and positivity. So sometimes your family is that negative tribe. Gay calls it a bad luck conspiracy because conspire means to breathe together. So, if you have a bad luck conspiracy, he says it comes out around tax time when everybody's complaining about the IRS, and he tells a great story. So looking around you, and we have an exercise in the book to help you identify who's in your good luck tribe and who's in your bad luck tribe. And not that you cut them off. You don't have to be antisocial, but just until you get strong enough, really limit your surrounding to them. And you can have virtual lucky tribe. You can listen to books on tape. You can listen to podcasts like Your Superior Self.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yes.
You get it?
I got it. I'm your tribe.
Yes, you are.
Carol and I are your tribe right now. I agree 100%. I think that I agree with everything that you're saying. I'm very practical myself. But the thing is, I didn't always have these methods of doing things. I had to awaken to them. I was the guy that was, 3 years ago, I was the guy that was asleep, working every day, grinding, just waiting for retirement. So that way I could, just do what I wanted to do. And it was one thing led to another. And I started awakening more and more and more and read more books. I read a ton of books. It's books like Conscious Luck that open your eyes to different things, right? Some people call it positivity, throwing positive vibes out in the world. Some people call it luck. But either way, there's something you put out into the world, into the universe, and you believe it. And you were talking about breaking down barriers, and you just make yourself vulnerable to that. And then your life starts to change, and you start meeting new people, experiencing new opportunities, and creating more luck for yourself. That Matt Damon quote was very interesting to me, that 20 seconds of insane courage. Do you have an example? Do you have 20 seconds of just insane courage where you put yourself out there?
Yeah, that was the story that I wrote about my life. is in the book. Every chapter has a main story and some anecdotes, and the story for chapter 5 is my story. And I had never written anything until I was in my mid-30s. So if you're in your 20s and listening to this and thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, don't worry, it can happen later. So I was probably almost 40, actually, when I started writing. And I found out that I had this gift for ghostwriting, like we just discussed. I could interview someone and write their story in their voice. So my girlfriend, who I went to college with, my real good friend, she got the contract to write Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. And she came to me and asked me if I wanted to do some kind of hourly work doing research to find great stories about women who would be inspiring to other women. And I loved that idea. So I got paid to go to do the library research. And this is before Google, friends. I'm old, remember? This is before the internet. So I had to go to the library and look in magazines and newspapers. And, it was a different life. And I did research to find those people and interview them. And I found I loved doing it. And so I ended up writing stories, helping her get stories and writing stories. And when that book came out, it was an instant bestseller, went to the top. She sold millions of copies. And I thought, I wrote this book with her, but, I'm not making very much money. She made all the money. And I thought, what's wrong with this? Well, no, it wasn't fair because I knew she did a lot of work. I mean, she had to market the book. But I thought, I don't think this is really, I think I should rethink this. So when she recommended me my name to a Chicken Soup for the Pet Lover's Soul author, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen started the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And then we started doing these specialty books, these niche books, and they would get experts in that field. So Marty Becker was the Good Morning America vet. He was a syndicated columnist, and he was the foremost expert on the human-animal bond. And he was their choice for their co-author on Chicken Soup for the Pet Lover's Soul. I am a dog lady. I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. And so Marci thought this would be so much fun for me to do that book with him. So she gave me his name. She gave him my name. He sent me stories that he had already collected, and they blew my socks off. They were so good. I was so excited. And then I had this thought, I don't want to be just an editor, researcher. I want to be a co-author. I want to curate these stories. I want to really have a royalty position. I want to really be part of this book in a bigger way. Mm-hmm. So I was supposed to be talking to Marty in the afternoon. I decided I was going to ask him if I could be a co-author, which was a big ask. It was not something I would normally have done. And so when he answered the phone, I said, I have good news and bad news. And he said, okay. I said, what do you want to hear first? He said, good news. I said, the stories are fantastic. You're going to have a fabulous book. He said, so what's the bad news? And I said, I'm not doing this book as an editor. I'm only going to do it as a co-author. And he basically said, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. And this was where the 20 seconds of insane courage, I had to do it twice. I had to ask him. It was 40 seconds. And then when he said no, that was the moment where I said, I needed, it was like $35 an hour at the time, which was a lot in 1995. Sure. But I needed that money. And I thought, nope, if I settle for that, I'm going to be making $35 for the rest of my life. I just said to him, thank you so much. I totally understand. Where would you like me to send these stories back to? I walked away from the table. And then that was insane courage. And he said, wait. And we ended up negotiating a deal. And it was the start of my career. I've sold millions of copies of books. Mm-hmm. I live in California now and not Iowa because of it. This is my 14th book. And I've written wonderful books with motivational speakers, transformational thought leaders. It started my career. And that was awesome. The turning point of taking bold action.
That is a beautiful story. But it just 20 seconds of this courage that people believe they don't have, and your life changes forever. Like this is an example of that. Like feeling that fear and being like, you could have easily said, okay, I'll just be the editor. Like you said, you'll be making $35 for the rest of your life. Yeah. But you stood for something. You stood for finding courage in yourself and confronting what that uncomfortableness was of asking more for yourself, because you knew you have value. You have value that you bring, and you were trying to, me personally, I think you're trying to validate that you're strong enough, that you're brave enough to make that ask. right? Like I can do that. All I have to do is ask. And
Yeah,
it's tough sometimes. It's tough.
it
I
is
mean,
really tough.
especially when you don't do it. Like if you don't do it, like there's been times in my life where I buckled under pressure, and there's some times where I stood up to it, and it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it and everybody be a hero and everybody be a leader, but that's not the case. I mean, it takes a lot to stand up for yourself and say, 20 seconds, 40 seconds of courage. And I mean, it can definitely change your life. I mean, you talked about all these books that you sold and people that you've helped ghostwrite for. Like, imagine if you hadn't asked. Like,
I can't imagine what my life would be like. But I have to tell you that lucky breaks, that the 20 seconds of insane courage will get you the lucky break.
mm-hmm.
But not all lucky breaks turn into lucky streaks unless you are persistent. Like, I did not know how to write a book, but I thought, I'm going to learn. I jumped out of that, I started driving that plane, and I built the plane as I was flying.
Sure. You're falling down off a cliff and you built the plane on the way down.
I did. I said yes. I wanted it, and then I could have second guessed myself. So there's two parts to this current thing. They'll give you a lucky break, but think of all the actresses and actors in our life who get these great breaks and then they self-destruct. Somehow they can't handle it. So lucky breaks don't turn into lucky streaks, and unless you have talent and persistence and you're willing to go through a learning curve and be out. I mean, that chapter 5 has so much depth in it, really, but it's just one of the. Chapter 5 is about saying yes, getting out of your comfort zone, asking for what you want.
I love it. It's funny you say you like dogs. I got my golden retrievers right down by my desk. She snuck in here because she knew that I was talking to you.
That's right. What's her name?
Gracie.
Oh, that's such a good dog name.
Gracie
I have a dog named Buddy.
That's a good name too for a dog, Buddy.
Buddy's a good boy.
Bud.
Bud. The Budster.
The Budster. I love it. Yeah. I'm just turning into a dog person. Like I was, I got her for the kids and I tease because we got her from the Amish. So I say she's an Amish golden retriever, and she's great. She was at my parents' house this weekend. Great dog, slept in the bed. She's not allowed to sleep in our bed. Somehow she snuck in my parents' bed. She's spoiled over there, and my parents have a dog. Lab too, and they just run around, and she's been wore out for like 3 days straight, like just sleeping. She doesn't know what to do with herself. But
where do you live that you live near the Amish?
I'm in Baltimore, so the Amish are actually in PA. So we took a drive up there. I used
to live with the Amish.
No way.
Yeah.
You used to live with the Amish. How was that?
Oh, in my early days, before I was a writer, I used to buy and sell Amish quilts and dolls. And I traveled all over the country. And I lived in DC for a while. And my Amish friends lived in Myersdale, Pennsylvania. And I would travel. It's about a 3-hour drive from Silver Spring, where I was living.
Sure.
And we traveled all the way up into Canada, and I've traveled all in the Midwest, and I used to stay with them. Every 6 weeks, I would go and spend the weekend with my Amish friends in Pennsylvania. And I go, when I was there in October, I went to visit. It's been, they're both dead, the people that I used to, but their children are my friends now. So I have dear friends in the Amish community.
So how do you get a hold of them where you can go hang out with them for the weekend?
I send them postcards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they live in Cumberland. They live in Garrettsville.
Okay, yeah. Cumberland. All right, that's a big area, right? Like I think the Amish.
Yeah.
So you get there on the weekend. Like, what are you guys doing?
Well, I usually drive them around to their families. They usually have lots of kids, and we go and we see every child and the grandkids. And I usually stay for supper. I stay in a hotel. I used to stay at their homes, but when I was my Amish grandparents, the parents of these present generation, Menno and Matilda. And Menno and Matilda had a room for me in their house, and we would just hang out and talk. They are such storytellers, and it was wonderful. And then I would go to bed. In the morning, we'd get in the car, or we'd garden, or we'd just hang out and visit. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. Did you guys ever talk about like spirituality, beliefs, stuff like that?
Yeah, it was interesting because, I'm Jewish and they're super Christian. And I'm a vegetarian, and they're like not vegetarian.
Oh my goodness. How
So
did you guys make out? Like,
they were so kind to me.
Yeah.
I really saw that what religious tolerance looks like. They are the Amish people. The true Amish people are Gracie. The true Amish people are very beautiful Christians.
I'm on an interview, babe. Sorry, you gotta love it. The kids out there playing with the recorder.
Yeah, the problem is you have to watch out though. A lot of the Amish have puppy mills, so be careful when you.
That's what we have. That's what we got. Like, I didn't know that. It was a website, and
they're not good.
They were beautiful little puppies, and we got Gracie. Thank God we got Gracie. Like, she's a great dog, but she's definitely from a puppy mill.
Yeah, that's a longer conversation, and it's too bad because my Amish grandmother Matilda and I loved dogs, and she had the dog. It's very unusual. She had a house dog, and the dog was in love with her. Benji was a little munchy dog, and when he died, I bought her a headstone, like a little a painted rock, and had it say Benji on it. Her family thought she was nuts. I mean, they couldn't understand, and I had to turn my head. I just couldn't stand the way they treated some of their animals. So it's just like everybody. There's some good and some not so good in terms of animal rights.
Sure. But I mean, like the puppy mills, right? So I guess they just breed them and breed them and breed them and then sell them, right?
It's a crop. It's a product. It isn't. And, who am I to say? As long as they're not treated cruelly, that's their business. But if they're not healthy and they're not treated well, then that's a problem. And I don't know that for a fact that all Amish are like that. I know that Amish do have some puppy mills.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. They price them like cheaper, right, than a true breeder. And it's like, it's appealing. It's like, all right, well, I can get a golden retriever that I see online as a picture. She's beautiful. And I can get her.
Does she have any health issues?
Right now, she has a lot of all right. So the Amish guy, when we were pulling away, the last thing he said to me was, she's going to be the best watchdog you ever had. I'm like, what does that mean, man? I don't even know what that means. I said, okay, thanks. See you later. She barks at everything. Like, it's crazy. You think a golden retriever would be the most friendliest, outgoing, like, the worst guard dog because she would just go up and lick everybody that comes up. No. Like, we got kids, like babies and strollers going by the house, and she's rah, 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 rah. I'm like, goodness great. The last words out of his mouth were she's going to be best guard dog you ever had. I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't know what that means. Barks at everything. Fire alarm goes off, as far as like the fire whistle for the fire siren, she sings to it. It's crazy. It's so funny.
Well, her parents she must have known that one of her parents was like that.
I don't know, but it just is so funny. But I remember going and picking her up and driving by the schoolhouse and seeing all the little kids, and then we pull up to this house, and we're in this, my wife's truck, Honda Pilot, and these kids, like 10 of them, are out sticking their heads against the window, just looking at us. And my daughter was with us, and I was like, first time interacting with the Amish. I'm not, it's just different. It's just different culture. You see the women out there in the field, and they're all doing their work, and the dogs are running around. It's just a different vibe, right? And it's a different culture, different. It's like I don't know, it's not a time machine, but you definitely feel
it
like
is. You're going back in time. You're going back in time. It really is. They're in the 18th century. They don't have electricity. They don't have computers. At night they go to bed when it's dark. They don't sit up and I would always look for the electric switch on the wall, and there wasn't any. It was like, oh, I forgot.
I bet you have some crazy stories about that. That's awesome.
I do. Back to conscious luck.
Well, that's luck. I mean, right? I mean, that's luck. I mean, that gave you a lot of experiences in life and beliefs, right? I mean, you said before we got on here, you didn't expect me, you expected a hippie. I feel like you're very free spirited and very open-minded to different things. And I love that. I love that. I can vibe with you. Like, I could definitely have a beer or a glass of wine with you and just chat up life. And I love, these are the best conversations. Like, you find, you find out so much about the person, like really truly connecting and flowing with that person. Like I love it so much. Like that's one of the things I really, really love, is just connecting with someone and just talking about life. I mean, and you seem like that type of person that I could just chill with, and we can have some great conversation.
I hope so.
So you're talking about some of the authors that you ghostwrited for. Like, was there any time where you felt like you had a story of your own, like you didn't want to ghostwrite, like you had, you wanted to write your own book?
Everybody's always asking, why don't you write your own book? And honestly, I don't. This book is the closest Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason were co-authored. I co-authored that. It wasn't ghostwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was our material. And Marci is an amazing person, an amazing marketer, amazing, she's terrific, and she's very charismatic. And I've always been the person behind, like the wind beneath the wings. I sit at my computer. I've never wanted that life. And I used to have 3 dogs. They would just hang around my computer, and my husband and I are very happy. And I just had a lovely life, very creative. And I didn't want the kind of life that I would have if I had to market my own books
Sure.
and have my own thing. So I was very happy doing what I did. I did contribute material. And this book is the first book I'm actually, besides Chicken Soup for the Soul, that was in the days when we had book tours, and you went to bookstores, and it was like I went to 20 cities in 20 days. It was wild. But Conscious Luck is a book where I'm really passionate about it. I really feel that it could change people's lives, because right now people don't realize the power they have, the power of their commitments, the power of their associations, the power of, and we didn't get to, integrity, values, your intuition, and being centered in your actually moving through space when you're connected to your center and not anxious, not running out in front of yourself, anxious, not regretting the past or being angry about what happened a few minutes ago, but actually being present in your body as you go through space. That can get you to the right place at the right time.
I love it. Well, a lot of people, they don't realize the power inside of them. Like I've been reading a lot of different books about Zen, St. Teresa's Interior Castle, Seth books, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, and a lot of it all points to the inner power that we have inside of us. Like a lot of people, even luck, right? It's just understanding that power within you to draw your wants and your wishes into reality. And we can do that 100% if we have that mindset, if we believe with all of our being. We don't realize how strong we are. We don't know the power that we have inside of ourselves. Like people they forget about that. They think, look at mankind, look at our history, look at everything that's gone throughout time. We built the pyramids. We've done all these crazy things, learned how to fly. Like we built a machine that flies. We can call it, you can call things into reality through our internal power. And I've just been getting into meditation and trying to tap into that. And I love this book because it kind of reminds you that, you can create your own luck, but you have to have a belief system. Like and there's actually a part in this book where you create a contract almost with yourself. And I asked Gay about that. I was like, well, why do you do it in both left-handed and right-handed form? And he was like, just because you activate both sides of the brain. And I didn't know that. I was just like, I'm right-handed, dominant right hand, and I go left hand and start writing a contract. I can barely read it. I'm like, why am I writing my left hand? And obviously it's because of the two-sided brain. But you're basically creating your own luck. Like you're drawing from that power.
Well, the thing I really want people to understand is whatever luck you have right now, you've created it. And I know that sounds harsh, because if you have bad luck, you're thinking, well, that person did it to me. Yes, there are situations, but the energy has been set up by how you live your life, who you hang out with, how you think about yourself. And there is a portion of luck. There is a small component of luck that's random. But for the most part, when I wrote Happy for No Reason, I realized that there's a happiness set point. Do you know about the happiness set point?
No, I don't.
Fascinating. It's a really good book, Happy for No Reason. It changed my life. I've written books about happiness, love, and luck. So I have a really happy, loving, lucky life.
And that's your book, right?
Huh?
The one you're telling me about, that's your book?
Happy for No Reason I wrote with Marci Shimoff. It's the
Okay.
one that Marci and I co-authored together. And the happiest set point is something that people have found that basically it's like a thermostat. You're born with a happiness set point that doesn't change. So like lottery winners, when they win the lottery, it takes them to this new level, but over time, within a year, they usually come back to where they were. It's like a thermostat. Unless you consciously set your happiness set point higher, you're going to always sort of bring yourself back, self-sabotage to a place that you're comfortable. You're comfortable. It's a comfort zone of being uncomfortable.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Self-sabotage is a scary thing. Gay's book, The Big Leap, if you haven't read it, is fabulous.
What is it called?
The Big Leap. And it's some of the book, everybody I know who's read it, it's been life-changing.
All right. So going with that, right? What has been the most life-changing book for you that Gay has not written or Hugo's written?
Oh, yeah. Well, I started meditating when I was 15 years old. And the book that really set me on that path was a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And it's like, it blew my mind. I was 15 years old and I was like, I just lived this suburban New York. I'm from New York, Long Island, and I had this life, my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters. I had an American life and I was very sort of rational. I wasn't very religious. And I read this book and I understood what spirituality meant, that spirituality wasn't religion, that religion was an expression of spirituality, but spirituality was more basic. It was the belief that there's something inside of us that doesn't die. There's something inside of us that, so that book, even though it's kind of very Indian, I'm not necessarily an Indian person, but it opened my mind to a kind of spirituality, that meditation, every day you dip into this unchanging river, this unchanging, like when you're in the ocean and it's all these waves on the surface, our lives. And then when you settle down, it's so silent at the bottom of the ocean. So every day for almost 50 years now, I have been meditating twice a day. And that book was the one that just sort of set me on this, like, wow, I want to meditate. Yeah, I want to build the wealth that you take with you. That's what meditation, in the Indian word for meditation, means.
Have you ever experienced like a higher consciousness through meditation, like changing your consciousness to experience the universal, like higher power?
I think so. I definitely have experienced what I call the fourth state of consciousness. We have waking, dreaming, and sleeping. But I've experienced for 50 years now, every day I meditate and I have this very incredibly deep rest, like so silent, hardly breathing, but I'm alert, I'm aware. It's like deeper than deep sleep, the rest of your body, but your mind is in a different, it's like theta waves or whatever. So that's called transcendental consciousness. I call it the fourth state of consciousness. They've done studies on it. It's a real physiological reality. And that experience can lead to, when you start making that more permanent, like you establish that as your functioning state, then you can have you can still be active, actually in activity, and still have this very, very quiet, coherent brain. So I think I've been moving towards that. I don't know what I would have been like if I didn't meditate. It's hard to know. Yeah.
You should, my buddy, Sean Webb, he wrote a book called Mind Hacking Happiness, and he talks about his experience with that. It's like 1,500 pages. It's two volumes.
That's a long book.
Yeah. I listened to the Audible version. It feels like he's talking to me. But he talks about his experience with meditation, the Zen meditation, and he actually experienced like altering his consciousness, where he went into a deeper, I don't know, realm or something, and experienced the entire consciousness that is around us, and experience it was crazy. You have to read it, but I love books. I can't stop, reading. And once I describe that the awakening to like a higher consciousness is like seeing the Wizard of Oz. Like once you see the wizard behind the curtain, there's no going back. Like there's just no going back to sleep. And it scares me a little bit, because I see a lot of people out there that are just, kind of going along their lives and not really, worried about self-growth and self-development and self-betterment. And it's like, I feel bad for them. And I try to speak to them about it, and not judgmental, but like, hey, look, man, there's other things to life than what you guys are worried about. over time, the bigger house, cars and stuff. Like there's so much more to that. Like, I mean, we're all here for this experience.
That's exactly what I was talking about. This sort of when your soul wakes up and you realize there's more to life than materialism.
Mm.
But that I think everybody comes to that themselves. I don't know that you can make someone be aware of that. They either have that in them or they don't. And
Sure.
I think it's great to recommend books and that happens to people. They read them and they're like, oh my gosh, but I think there's some seeker, there's some quality of being a seeker, of wanting to have more in your life, not just things that are going to disappear or money that could get devalued the next day, but some of deep meaning, some growth of human thriving,
Mm. Yeah, no, I get it. Carol, how
We
can
have
people...
We have one more, 2 more practices. Do we have time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, good. So the last 2 practices, we had your lucky tribe and take bold action consistently. The third one, and I love this one, is about intuition. We did that one, intuition, values, and moving through space in a centered way. And the last one has to do with gratitude. And honestly, I see a little girl walk by.
Oh, yeah, because it's getting ready to thunderstorm. So she's like, she's been in so many of my episodes. It's great. Baby, just go sit down, sweetheart. I'll be right there.
So
go ahead.
Gratitude is one of the most important pieces to luck. When I really started feeling like, what is luck? One of the things that when you write a book, you have to really master your subject. You have to own it so much that you can explain it simply. If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Mm.
So I had to just percolate and marinate and wrestle with what is luck? What is luck? How does it feel to be lucky? And I remember I had these earrings my husband had given me, and I had walked downtown. I lived in walking distance to downtown in my area. And I came home and there was only one earring on. And I was so freaked out. They were expensive and they were from him. They were like my 25th wedding anniversary or something. So I just decided I'm going to find that earring. And I walked all the way down to where I'd been, scanning the ground, nothing. Came back, I'm going to find this. I'd gone to the chiropractor. So I went to the chiropractor's office. I looked everywhere. I came back and I looked somewhere I had already looked. And there in the middle of this path, this sidewalk, was my earring. But it had not been there on my way down. I would guarantee. And there was this explosion of joy and gratitude and feeling blessed and taken care of and lucky. I just felt so lucky. And I thought, well, this was an exalted experience. I said, this is sort of an epitome, but it was so wrapped around gratitude. And I realized that gratitude and feeling grateful and feeling lucky are so connected. So I started every night, I do a luck inventory. I just think about the ways I was lucky that day. And it's like I've been doing a gratitude. My husband and I, every time before we go to bed at night, I say, what are you grateful for? And he says 3 things he's grateful for. And I say 3 things I'm grateful for. But now we've added luck. What do you feel lucky about? And sometimes they're all the same thing. But when you we have meditations on our website, 3-minute meditation in the morning you can do, and a 3-minute meditation in the evening. My voice is the evening one, and Gay's voice is the morning one. Mm-hmm. And it's a luck inventory at night, and it's also helping you program that. When you said your left hand, your non-dominant hand, it actually it makes your subconscious. It goes into your subconscious. It's your less dominant hand is more triggering your subconscious. Mm-hmm. So anyway. Luck inventory is learning to feel lucky even when bad things happen, to learning to find something to be grateful for, not in a sort of whitewash mood maker, put a little Band-Aid on a gaping wound. You don't want to suppress your experience of negativity. You want to just let it be there, breathe through it. And then in the spirit of tremendously gentle inquiry, ask yourself, is there anything I could be grateful for here? And there might not be, but even getting to the place where you ask that gets you unstuck from that victim place.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our book. That's,
I love the book. I love it.
A big overview, and there's a lot of stories and techniques in it. And I think people will be luckier if they read it.
Carol Kline, thank you so much for sharing the secrets in this book. Thank you for taking the time. How can people connect with you?
Well, our consciousluck.com is our website, and we have a Facebook page, we have Twitter, and I'm learning Instagram. The old lady that I am, I've got to learn Instagram. And my website is carolkline.com. So, and
check her out. Go to carolkline.com. Carol, before we go, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that that's a hard question. When that these books that I have poured my heart into make a difference in someone's life, that my life made a difference to other people, that I helped people, and that I had fun and enjoyed the incredible adventure that life can be.
I love it. Carol, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for sharing this book.
Ray, you're a doll.
And